JB here, JB here. Hope everyone's doing this. Monday, October 13, 9:07 a.m. Talk really quick about mark some names I'm looking at. Go from there. S&P futures up over 1%, 1.25% here. Nasdaq's up over almost 2%. Just before, I guess at the 9 o'clock hour, Broadcom and OpenAI just announced a 4-year partnership agreement for 10 gigawatts. I always think of Back to the Future. Don't ask me why. 10 gigawatts of capacity. Uh, yeah, so I mean, it's on the heels of last Monday. I mean, just time last Monday, we were talking about AMD. So, was it last Monday or maybe it was a Monday? This entire circularity of these deals, it's just mind-boggling to me. Maybe, I don't- but anyway, so that's up this morning. But a big week here. So the start of the earnings season, to me, the official kickoff. You have the banks tomorrow. Um, and to me, the banks aren't even the important ones. We have ASML and Taiwan Semiconductor. Those will be Wednesday morning and Thursday morning. Those are probably the ones, in my opinion, will be the ones to watch. And then we have one more week to the Fed meeting, so that'll be next Wednesday. But Friday, just here we are back to April. Another POTUS tweet causing the markets to tumble. 11 o'clock talked about 100% tariff on top of what's already going on in China in regards to tariff on China imports because of their workings around on the rare earths, right? They're doing some having restrictions and back end agreements with these rare earths supply. So, I mean, that was a big sticking point, I guess, with the trade agreement. Who knows how this all plays out? To me, a lot of it's always, I mean, we've seen it before in April. A lot of it was posturing. You just hope that was kind of like the peak of it. This gets resolved, and then it's one of those things that we just we forget, not forget about, but it's becomes somewhat of a non-issue. To me, I still think the biggest risk to the market here is this. I mean, what we saw here this morning, the great circle jerk. And the great circle jerk maybe goes on for 6 months, 12 months, 5 years. I'm not going to sit here and try and call a top, but I just know when we do get an opportunity for downside, I'm just going to make sure I have some kind of position to take advantage because it'll be some massive profits. All right. Uh, Quick little chart here. I posted this. I don't know which article it was this morning over the weekend, talking about the probability of recession. This is just surveys that are done, and you can see this over the last 19, 20 years, and it just gives the probability of U.S. recession in the next 12 months. The point here on this little chart here is like there's always a probability, 30%, 25%, 50%. So you always see those headlines. I mean, even in April, and you can see the spike, we got up to 50% on the tariff concerns. There's always concerns. I remember in 2022, it was regards to inflation, right? Inflation was going bonkers. Everybody thought not only is there a recession coming, we are in a recession. I mean, 2022, we had those two negative GDP reads in a row, and typically, by all definitions that I could recall, that was the definition of recession. But they said, oh, no, it wasn't. So, all right, so that's kind of what's going on with the overall market. I mean, on Friday, we got down to that support resistance that I just drew in on the SPY, 558. It was holding there when I was doing my rant, and then we broke through and closed at lows. It's funny, if you get feared into stuff, and I was saying on the rant on Friday afternoon, I don't have a ton of call positions. So to me, to try and add some spec lottos or spec puts for a Black Monday event just didn't make sense on a risk reward basis. And then sure enough, here we are Monday. Even when the futures were open, it's kind of like joking around because everybody likes to get the Black Monday scenario out there, right? Put it out there because it gets clicks and what have you. And when anything but, and here's a reversal. So we'll see if that was just one of those, and I talked about it. We've seen these pullbacks, and a great example, I think, is the start of the year in January with that DeepSeek situation, right? That just, NVIDIA and all those names just got destroyed on DeepSeek, and no one's talking about that anymore. To me, it was just like an excuse to take profits after the massive run. And then unfortunately, it wipes away a month and a half of gains. But maybe this healthy, I mean, I wouldn't call it healthy, right? You don't want to see a big, 2.7% downside move in one day. But maybe a greed reset can find some support here today and market can find some footing. 558, that's a big spot for me. So if we can't hold that today, I'm certainly open to some spec puts on reversal. If not, hopefully that holds and I'll be open against some calls. All right, so that's the overall market. I did on Friday. I'm trying to scramble. It's 11 o'clock. This tweet comes out of nowhere and trying to find some names play for downside. I was looking at the Broadcoms, the Oracles to try and play some put hedges, and those premiums were expensive, right? Even to try and trade it. I don't know, with the 325s, just didn't make sense on a risk reward basis. So I started looking at China ADRs, considering it was China news. The Baidu and Baba puts looking expensive, so I went and got the PTD, the PDD Holdings, Pindu, however you called it. got to 125s, and sure enough, 123s, and sure enough, it finds support at 125. It almost was bouncing in the afternoon. I'm like, are you kidding? Finally broke through, was able to lock some of the calls out, puts out for 100%, then close to 400%. And then I just held the rest, closed the last few until the end of the day. Another name I'll be watching if there is continued weakness, 50-day moving average 124.55. It's gapping. I think it's at 128. So that'll be a spot. All right. So that's overall names, just individual names. I was talking about, of course, SERV Robotics continues to be my favorite name, all the way up to 1670. It's funny, it had that offering news Friday, and you have to think any smart company, somewhat pre-revenue, because you could say SERV, it does $1.2 million in revenues, whatever it is, somewhat in regards to its revenues that's going to do in 2026. It's a pre-revenue story. Any good company is going to use a big move in their stock to the upside to raise capital, right? So I think it's a smart move. You see the bears take advantage. The stock was down in the pre-market. It was $16. And then boom. And the offering price is direct offering, $16 offering price. So then it started to bounce. And 11 o'clock, it hit 16.70. I'm like, oh, here we go. It's going to go red to green slingshot. And sure enough, that tweet comes out, and then the shorts take control. Within a matter of 30 minutes, they pushed it from 16.70 under $15. Just remarkable stuff. And then it found some footing around $15. And then after hours, you had some more updates from Trump, and boom, the stock all the way down to $14. Again, it's one of those names, if you're fearing into selling or what have you, you're out of your position. Oh, here goes. We got a Black Monday. And boom, we're at $16 here in the pre-market on SERV Robotics. Still love the story. I bring up the analogy or the comparison to its last earnings. Anybody watch the last earnings after hours session? It's not the most liquid name in the earnings after hours. They took it from like 12 or 13 down to $8. Like, just mind-boggling, right? It's like the shorts know they can take control. You couldn't even find the earnings release, and they took it down to $8 without the earnings release coming out. So it just shows that they were just salivating on the name. And to me, it's like I always talk about the bio names, the biotech stories that are in phase studies that don't have revenue, pre-revenue stories. It's a lot easier for these shorts to take advantage on a company like SERV Robotics that it's not doing $60 to $80 million in revenue yet, and they're still in the early stages of rollout. So there's issues that could happen, regulatory situations, rollouts with the firm company they partner with to build their robots. So with that, creates an opportunity for shorts. So I posted this slide here, and the updated short interest came out Thursday afternoon. I'm like, I didn't even take a look. The short interest is up 87% since April. So 31% short interest, 49 million shares in the float. 14 million of that is sold short. So that's a massive amount on such a small cap company. And this came out before the massive move up to $18. So that you can tell that, and there was call volume, the insane option volume on SERV last week. I think some of that is these shorts trying to take advantage of the inflated premiums, and hopefully they remain inflated, right, to protect positions. How long that lasts, I think 18 is a big part and a big spot, right? If you break that 18 handle, I think it's off to races, get some FOMO, and then those shorts can add fuel to the fire. I was talking on the Rant Friday afternoon. Apologies, had some issues with the audio recording it, but there was the values and the premiums on the call side are still strong, which is great. And, on a dip like Friday when it was in the 14s, I'm like, do I add some more strikes? And I look at the premiums, some of my strike positions, which I had already locked in a lot of the profits in, and I'm riding freebies, and it's been a cash cow this year, SERV Robotics. I'm still holding those positions. So to look at other strikes to add, I'm like, they're only down 30%. All things considered, of course, it stinks to be down 30%, but I'm not trading these calls to be up 30%. I'm trading for to be up a couple 100%, 1,000%. So because of that, so the rationale there is I'll just continue to hold those. My March strikes, which I got at higher stock prices, they're still solidly in the green. So at some point when those are double, I'll lock some into March, and then I'm just going to hold the rest. And if it gets some FOMO, breaks 18, I'll look for some lotto calls. So that's SERV Robotics. JOBY, and I put this on the watch list, held up. You would say, well, down for 5%, but all things considered, typically on a day like Friday, where the S&P is down 2.7%, JOBY would be down 10, 15%. It held its ground there. Unfortunately, unlike SERV, the premiums have come out of November strikes. If it gets over 18 today, I might look for some, or maybe even 17.25, somewhere in there. I might look to get some more November strikes, the lower ones, probably 24.25. Duolingo, frustrating, down 2 days in a row after trying to break out over that 350 handle. Still like this one for a move to 375 plus. They have earnings, I think, at the end of the month. So premiums are nuts there. So I'm not going to try and trade that, but I might do some lottos if the market finds footing here today. Same with Reddit, right? 2 days in a row, 2 times last week, I was able to trade Reddit calls for some profits, or at least lock costs in, and then it just couldn't follow through. This is either a bear flag setting up or just consolidation before the next leg to the upside. I think the latter, so I'll continue to trade that one for some spec calls. We'll see if it holds the line here this morning. And 205, 204, 205, that's the key spot. If it breaks, just like I did last week, I'll look to get some lotto calls. And then on the flip side here, Oracle has their AI World this week. It starts today, it goes to the 16th. Keynote speakers tomorrow. I think Larry Ellison's at 1:30 or 2:30. I don't know if that's Pacific time. I don't think that's Eastern time, so it's probably after the close tomorrow. I have to go back and look at the exact data. And I don't know if they announced prelim guidance last year and the actual stock performance. It was called a different thing. I think it was called like Analyst Day last year. They changed it to AI World this year. So that certainly could move markets. ASML Wednesday. It's actually overnight, right? Because they're like a Dutch or Netherlands company or whatever. So their earnings will be out in the overnight hours. But that's definitely one to watch. Funny, I was looking at ASML. I don't know if it was Monday or Tuesday. I'm like, oh, if I was going to get some more spec puts, the 940 puts were like $1 or something like that. And then sure enough, what does ASML do? Closes at 935. So those were in some serious multi-bags. But definitely could be a name if find some footing here. Maybe it's off to the races. The big issue with ASML last year, well, not last year, but in the summer and in the spring, they were concerned about delivering on their guidance, right? So that could be an issue. The thing with Oracle, right? It's their revenue obligations, right? $500 billion. So is that going to be like 600 billion? Are they going to update that guidance? I mean, certainly going to be interesting. Could move the markets. That's probably more important. Those Oracle, Lam Research, and ASML this week than the banks. But maybe I'm wrong there. Anyway, let's hopefully we have a good day here today. Markets find some footing. I'll be back rock and roll.